At the start of the season, we all thought that the Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton rivalry would spill over into this season. But so far, that just hasn't happened. Mercedes were well off the pace in the opening round, but have finally started making up ground. The animosity between Hamilton and Verstappen has slowly been bubbling to the surface, and it could explode again this season. Let's get you filled in on what's been said. Last year, Lewis and Max battled it out on either side of the closest championship in history. There were numerous collisions between the two as the 2021 season heated up. On the 18th of July 2021, at the Silverstone Grand Prix, the battle between the two really began. They came together on the first lap of the Grand Prix and the collision ended with Max in the tyre barrier and on the way to hospital as Lewis Hamilton won the race and celebrated jubilantly in front of the home fans. Lewis would be blamed for the crash by the FIA, and both Max Verstappen and team boss Christian Horner would call out Hamilton for celebrating while a driver he had knocked off the track was in hospital. Max has incurred a 51G accident, Horner said after the race. Lewis Hamilton is a 7-time world champion. He shouldn't be making maneuvers like that. It's unacceptable. It started a war of words between the two teams that escalated throughout the season. The tension between the two was at times electrifying but also uncomfortable. Depending on who you asked, it was either incredible drama that was great for the sport or terrible bickering that would ruin the sport. They came together again in Italy with Max parking his car on top of Hamilton's as the two tussled at turn 2. Then, in late October during free practice at the United States Grand Prix, Hamilton and Verstappen went wheel to wheel in Texas, with Verstappen calling Hamilton a stupid idiot over team radio. The crash in Saudi Arabia was probably the worst of the lot though, when Max was deemed to have purposely hit the brakes as Hamilton came up behind him to retake a position Max had taken illegally. By that point though, there was already a huge rift between them, and the arguing had spilled over to the team bosses, and was all the media could talk about. For the opening 8 races of this season, none of that really seemed to surface again. Everything seemed to have been put to bed. The bickering was gone, no insults were thrown, and neither of them rose to prying questions from various journalists. Of course, this has been helped by the fact that Mercedes haven't even come close to being competitive with Red Bull for most of the season. But the gap between the two teams has slowly started to shrink, and now that Hamilton has managed to string together 3 podiums in a row, things have just started to simmer beneath the surface. At the start of the season, it was George Russell who had everyone talking. He's been in the top 5 in every race he's finished this season and has 3 podiums to Hamilton's 4, and still sits above the 7-time world champion in the driver's standings. But Hamilton seems to be hitting some form. Talking about his first season with Mercedes, George Russell stated, "Those first 9 races, maybe 8 races, I'd say were pretty good. The last 2 races were a bit trickier for me." He followed this up by saying the most recent Grand Prix has shown him how good Hamilton really is. "I knew the challenge I faced ahead of the season, going up against Lewis, and I've seen firsthand just how great he is." After his podium finish in Canada, Lewis seemed to gain some confidence, and when the paddock came to Silverstone, Hamilton took the chance to show he can still be a contender. After a late safety car, he battled against Charles Leclerc in an attempt to take that prized 3rd place and another spot on the podium. Just like in 2021, Hamilton tried to make his move down the inside of Leclerc at Copse Corner, where he had spun Max off last year. Speaking after the British Grand Prix, Hamilton praised Leclerc's racecraft throughout the battle, highlighting how he believed the fight differed from his one with Verstappen a year earlier. "Charles did a great job, a great battle," Hamilton told the media after the race. "He's such a sensible driver, definitely different to what I experienced last year. Copse, for example, we got through there no problem." It was an unnecessary jibe from Hamilton and shows that he still hasn't managed to get over his battle with Verstappen from last season. While it might have only been one comment, it was always going to develop into something more. The media at the race instantly pounced on it, and the back and forth between the two has started once again. "I think it's great when you're 37 years old, at some point you understand how to hit an apex," was the defending champion's response to 7-time title holder Hamilton. He is learning, so that is positive. It is also good for younger drivers to know that you are still learning when you're 37 years old. You can clearly see in the footage what was different compared to last year. "I think Charles gave him less space than I did last year, so that says enough." In the end, he was the one who got a penalty last year, so there's no point talking about that either. From his response, I think it's fair to say that Max might not be over last year either. Of course, Hamilton's comment wasn't completely unprovoked. Earlier in the week, Verstappen claimed that his duels with Leclerc are calmer than his battles with Mercedes Hamilton last season. What looked to just be a bit of banter with some history behind it has already started spiraling beyond that thanks to the Red Bull team boss firing shots at Mercedes. Christian Horner blamed Russell for hitting Perez at turn 4 at the start of the Austrian Grand Prix. He also had a swipe at Hamilton for a carbon copy accident at the same corner involving the 7-time champion and former Red Bull driver Alex Albon back in 2020. He said, "I don't think Mercedes like our cars going around the outside at turn 4. It was a shame because Checo, you could see he was ahead there. It's almost a mirror image with Alex a couple of years ago. There was so much damage, there was no chance for him to score any points, so better to save the mileage. It's a tricky corner, we've seen so many incidents on the outside. It's just a shame he wasn't given more space. But it's one of those things, we'll bounce back in France." Russell and Perez made contact on the opening lap of the race after the former Williams driver lost ground after failing to pass Ferrari's Carlos Sainz. Mercedes trackside engineering director Andrew Chauvelin blamed Perez for not leaving enough room for Russell to make the move. Mercedes also criticised the FIA's decision to award Russell a 5-second penalty as a harsh call. Chauvelin commented, "It's been a very tough weekend in the garage, but very satisfying to come away with 3rd and 4th positions. We felt that George's penalty for the incident with Sergio was harsh. He was up on the apex curve and left more than enough room." I think it's probably fair to say that not many people want to see this war of words start up again, so hopefully everyone can just calm down and we can enjoy the incredible racing that's been happening this year. As we saw at Silverstone with the crowd booing Max and at Austria with the crowd cheering Lewis's qualifying crash, the arguments are spilling over into the fans. The fans who go to watch trackside will always be partisan when there is a local racer driving. That is unavoidable. Cheering for your favourite driver is one thing. Booing their rival or cheering when their rival crashes, though, is a step too far in the eyes of many people. David Coulthard has an idea on how to repair the relationship and hopefully calm the divisions among the fan bases as well. He told Channel 4, "I actually would like to see them both get their arms around each other's shoulders and make a statement to the fans of Formula 1. Because we heard some booing for Max at Silverstone. I really don't feel comfortable with that in Formula 1. I'm all for who you want to support, but let's be supporting. Let's make this something which is respectful." Both drivers condemned fans' actions over the Austrian Grand Prix weekend, with Hamilton saying he was disgusted by the reports of racism, sexism, and harassment in the stands. In a social media post, the Briton added, "Disgusted and disappointed to hear that some fans are facing racist, homophobic, and generally abusive behaviour at the circuit this weekend." Verstappen defended Hamilton, admitting he was also shocked at the issues fans experienced. He commented, "I shouldn't even need to say this. I think there should be a general understanding that these things shouldn't happen. A normal human being should think like that and should behave like that." Hopefully the arguments from last year won't start up again this year. As a fan base, it is great to see rivalries on the track, but that should never spill off the track, especially not in the way it did in Austria. Obviously, it is a very small section of fans that participated in this behaviour, but it's all our jobs to cut it out. Wherever else you go for your F1 content, if you see sexist, homophobic, or racist rhetorics, make sure to call it out and try to make our sport a more welcoming place for everyone. Are you glad to see Mercedes and Red Bull racing closely on track again? And what is your view on the rivalry between the two teams starting up again? Let us know what you think in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye bye.